Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Very Sat Sangat Ji, we're all very blessed today to be sat in the Pavan Pavitra Hazuri of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, the King of Kings, the Saint of Saints, the ocean of understanding, compassion and forgiveness. And as I stand before my beloved Satguru Ji, and I stand before you, beloved Sat Sangat, I want to ask you firstly for forgiveness for any mistakes that I made in the past, any mistakes that I'll make in the future. I also place a beinti at your charan kamal to continue to shower me with your blessings and to keep me in your ardas, so that when I speak only within the realms of Gurmat, and so that when I walk with and towards these Gurmat principles we speak about. Now the topic that Das wants to cover today in the Seeking Inspiration class is on a piece of land. And it's a piece of land that if you wade through the rivers of world history, you'll find that the rays of peace have hardly ever shone on this piece of land. It's constantly been embroiled in conflict, in turmoil, in unrest. Whether that's from internal factors and internal infighting between the inhabitants of that land, who make up many different tribes, or whether that's from external factors and foreign armies, generals, emperors, prime ministers, presidents coming into that land. Now this has happened so often that history records this land as the graveyard of foreign armies. And that piece of land is the northwestern frontier, the border between present-day Pakistan and Afghanistan. The inhabitants of that land are the Afghans, the Pathans, who are a very resilient race, a very strong people, very proud people. And despite all the foreign invasions that have happened, that have come through their country, there's only one name that echoes through each and every one of their households. Through every mother, father, and Afghan child. When an Afghan child misbehaves, when they refuse to go to sleep, a name of a general is invoked. And just that name is enough to spread so much fear into their hearts that that child behaves. Now imagine, Khalsa Ji, who is this general? Because over the last 30 years, Afghanistan has been invaded twice by two of the world's largest superpowers. In 1979, General Sergei Sokolov, the commander of the 40th Division of the Red Army, the Soviet Union, led his armed forces into Afghanistan. And that war lasted 9 years. And if you look through the books of history, you'll find that that war is recorded as the Russian bear trap, is recorded as Russia's Vietnam, because it's a war that they couldn't win. It's a war they couldn't defeat the Afghans in that war. And eventually they withdrew. And when they withdrew, the true devastation of what they caused could be seen. Khalsa Ji, over 1.5 million civilians lost their life in the Afghan-Soviet war. 2 million people were internally displaced in that country, had to leave their homes that they'd stayed in for generations. 3 million people were wounded. 5 million people fled that country. But Khalsa Ji, those mothers, they don't remember General Sergei Sokolov. They don't remember the Soviet Union. And if you fast forward to 2001, General Tommy Franks, the commander of the coalition forces, led the combined forces of the United States, of the United Kingdom, of Canada, of Australia, of France, of the United Afghan Front into Afghanistan under Operation Enduring Freedom. And this general is so highly regarded that not only did he lead the coalition forces into Afghanistan, but 2 years later into Iraq as well in 2003. And he was awarded the Medal of Freedom by the President of the United States. And if you look at the statistics published by the United Nations, over 15,000 civilians have died as a direct consequence of the war. That's currently ongoing to this very day. 15,000. What that means is 15,000 men, women and children have either been blown to bits or been shot and died of that. They don't take into account the number of people who've died as an indirect consequence of the war, who've died because of poor sanitation, of no food, of no water, of no health care. When that's taken into account, that number rises to 80, 90,000. And yet, Khalsa Ji, those Afghan people don't remember General Tommy Franks. And remember, these two generals, right until last year, on the 31st of August 2012, both of them were alive. Both of them. General Sergei Sokolov passed away at the age of 101. So Khalsa Ji, who is this general that they remember? He's a general who doesn't belong to this generation. He doesn't belong to the previous generation. No. Khalsa Ji, this general belongs to their great-great-great-grandparents. This general walked on this earth over 176 years ago. This general is the one who, when he was only in his teenage years, he was walking in the jungle and he was attacked by a man-eating tiger. And the attack was so ferocious, was so severe that he didn't have time to withdraw his talwar. He didn't have time to take out his sword. So this general, with his bare hands, caught hold of the tiger's jaw. And Khalsa Ji, the tiger's jaw has teeth which are 4 inches long. He caught hold of that jaw and he kept it open. And for those of you who do maths or physics, you'll know that the bite force of a tiger ranges from 1,000 to 1,500 pounds per square inch. So those things who go to the gym, that's equivalent to 450 kilograms. That's the force this teenage Singh, this teenage general exerted just to keep that mouth open. And it's not only that, Khalsa Ji. What did he do? He managed to lift the tiger up off the jungle floor and flung it across. A tiger weighs 150 to 200 kilograms. Forget everything else. Just imagine the strength of this individual to do that. The physical strength. And Khalsa Ji, the tiger tried to attack the second time. But this time, the general was prepared. This time, the talwar was out. And with one war, he decapitated the head of that tiger. Khalsa Ji, this general is Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, the pride of the Khalsa Panth, who's remembered to this very day in those Afghan households, and will be remembered to the end of time. Now, Sardarji's life is so beautiful, right from the moment they were born in 1791 to the day of their Shahidi in 1837. You can learn so much from studying Sardarji's life, but due to time constraints, we're only going to focus on the last few years, and in fact, the last few hours of Sardarji's life. And from that, you'll be able to gain so much, Khalsa Ji. I want you to focus your mind to the 6th of May in 1934, Peshawar. It's in Pakistan today, but back then it was the second city of Afghanistan. It was the summer capital of Afghanistan. And Khalsa Raj, under Maharaja Ranjit Singh, under Gursikhs like Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa and Akali Fulla Singh, had spread all the way up, all the way to this northwestern frontier. And Peshawar was invaded by Khalsa forces. And there's a British spy by the name of Charles Mason who was working for the British East India Company. And he saw what had happened when the Khalsa thundered into Peshawar, because the Afghan forces simply fled. They ran away. And Khalsa Ji, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, and all the other Singhs, all the other corps, all the other Khalsa army were parading through Peshawar. And they didn't only bring soldiers. Nishan Sahibs were flying, war elephants were there, Nagaras were beating. But soldiers weren't only there, Akali Nihang Singhs weren't only there. Khalsa Ji, they brought musicians, they brought artists, they brought architects, they brought traders, they brought administrators. So many different people were brought in. And lining the streets of Peshawar were all the Pathans who'd come to see who were these people who'd come into Peshawar, who had come into the very home of Afghanistan and attacked them and defeated them. Because remember, if you look at Peshawar, for 836 years, it was in Afghani hands. It was lost in 998 by King Jaipal of Lahore. And Khalsa Ji, in the crowd of these Pathans, there was a Pathan ladki who was only 21 years old. And her name was Banno. And she watched all this and she was mesmerized seeing the Khalsa Forge, seeing Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, seeing the other Sardars who were there, Sardar Nidan Singh, Sardar Amar Singh, Sardar Mahan Singh, the commanders of the Khalsa forces. And at night, she was sat and she was talking to her fiancé, Gul Khan, and she was discussing the day's events, and she asked him, who are these people? Who are them who have come into our lands and have defeated us? Have scattered our armies have fled to Kabul, who are they? And Gul Khan said, they're the Khalsa Forge. They're the sons of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. They're the sons of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And she said, I have a strong desire to go and meet Sardar Hari Singh, to talk to him, to find out more about this poem. And Gul Khan said, don't go. This poem does not know how to look after men. It doesn't know how to look after women. It doesn't know how to respect them. And she was surprised because she said, no, from what I've heard, they give the highest respect to women. And this way, Gul Khan refused to let her go. He said, I'm not going to let you go. But she was very determined. She pushed past him and she went to that place where Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa was. In the middle of the night, at Amrit Vela, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, she arrived over there. And she was given permission by the Nihang Singhs who were guarding Sardarji's tent to go and speak to him. Sardarji was sat down. He sat her down and he said, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And she said, I've come to ask you some questions. I've come to ask you about your poem, about your faith, about your army. And the first question she asked him, she said, why have you come? Why have you brought your armies all the way from Lahore to Peshawar, to the home of my ancestors, to the homes of my forefathers? And Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa looked at her and he said, you can answer this yourself. Tell me, is it not our right to defend your own home? Is it not your right to secure your own borders so that no one can come and attack you again and again and again? Which is what was happening, Khalsa Ji. And she said, yes, of course it's your right. And Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa began to explain about these attacks, about these invasions. And Khalsa Ji, the sad thing is, some of us don't even know what had happened or what a monumental thing Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa did. But we're going to find out today. This is a map from 1914, and it highlights the Khyber Pass, which is a very, very important road. To understand what Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa did, what a great seva he did, you need to have a good understanding of what this was about. The Khyber Pass is a mountain pass which allows access from Afghanistan all the way into Pakistan and into India. It's one of the oldest roads in the world. And it's over 35 miles long. And it's been used by several different armies. Right to this present day, this road is used. And just to give you an idea of the geography, the idea of how this place looks, at its narrowest point, it's only 3 meters wide. At its widest point, it's 137 meters wide. The sea level is about 1,000 meters. It's got cliffs, as you can see in that picture, which was painted by a British official. Cliffs which go up 100 meters, 300 meters at their highest point. This is the terrain that people had to come who wanted to invade India, who wanted to invade Punjab. It's a very barren area, Khalsa Ji. Now, these are just some of the invasions that had happened through this very pass. Even before history was recorded, people were coming into India, into Punjab, through this very pass. These are only a few examples of the hundreds that we can talk about. All the way from Darius I, one of the Persian kings, to Alexander the Great, to Genghis Khan, to Babur, to finally Ahmad Shah Abdali. All these people came, and they didn't come with the hand of friendship. No, Khalsa Ji, they came with one purpose alone, and that was to loot, to rape, to steal, to enslave, to torture, to suppress. Again and again and again. Over 2,000 years this lasted. 2,000 years of oppression. 2,000 years of enslavement. And Khalsa Ji, as I said to you, this pass is so important. Due to the actions of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa and the Khalsa Forge, to this very day, the Khyber Pass is being used by the coalition forces to not only supply their armies, not only to supply the armed forces of this country in America. 80% of all their ammunitions that are taken through land are taken through the Khyber Pass. But Khalsa Ji, look, those people who are evacuated from Afghanistan are taken through this very pass. This is the blessings of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj and his Gursikhs Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. Now, this is one of the forts that was constructed by the Singhs of the time. It's been modified. The fort was taken in 1880s by a British, when the British took over this place. And they made a few modifications, but the structure is very similar. It took 1 month and 25 days for the Singhs to construct this fort. And they built it at the very mouth of the Khyber Pass, with the intention that whoever tries to invade, whoever tries and comes into Punjab, whoever tries and comes into India, they'll think twice now. They'll think twice that the Singhs, that the Khalsa Forge of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj is standing at the very mouth, waiting with their short swords unsheathed. This is the fort that was built, Khalsa Ji. Going back to the conversation that Bibi Bano Ji was having with Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. The next question she asked him, she said, "You're such a small qawm. You're so few. You can count you in single digits." Because Khalsa Ji, now we may be 20 million strong, but back then our numbers were even fewer. And yet, Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji had carved out an empire that's bigger than present-day Pakistan. And she said, "How do you keep on winning?" Because remember, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa fought over 25 battles and not a single time did he lose. Sardar Hari Singh Ji Nalwa smiled and said, "There's only one reason why we win. Because we fight for Dharam. We're fighting Adharam. We're not fighting any Hindus, Muslims, Pathans. No, we're fighting against those who seek to oppress other people. And when we do this, we have the full blessings of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. It doesn't matter if we're few. Akal Purkh is on our side. Akal Purkh is with us. We have faith in Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, in Akal Purkh. It's through their blessing these victories happen. It's through their kripa alone. And Khalsa Ji, sometimes we think of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa only as a general, only as a soldier. But it's very important to realize, Khalsa Ji, that Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa was not only a soldier, was not only a Mahan Jarnail of the Panth. He ruled over a third of the Khalsa Empire. And he was made the governor of Peshawar. And the reason I'm showing you this Granth, the Prem Samara Granth, is so that you can realize we have a history. We have Granths that not only detail our history, our culture, our philosophy, but also social conduct, political conduct. This Granth was written in the 18th century. And yes, if you read it today, you'll find a lot of anti-Gurmat things. But with anything, you need to put it against the litmus paper of Gurbani. These are some quotations that I've lifted off the Prem Samara Granth. And you can look at these statements and you compare them to how people are functioning in the world today. How the so-called world largest democracy is acting today. Look at that first point. No one should suffer repression. If someone oppresses, if someone powerful oppresses a weaker person, it was the duty of the government to present them to that weaker person so they can give justice. In today's world, what's happening, Khalsa Ji? The innocent are sent to hang, and those who are guilty are given promotions. Those who are guilty have international airports named after them. A Raja should, in all respects, impose the same justice that he once his subjects to live by to himself. Khalsa Ji, who does this today? But this is what happened in Khalsa Raj. This is very, very important that we understand. When Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa ruled, it was only through the philosophy, the teachings of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, the teachings of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. The third point is very, very critical, because it's because of this failing that we find we have so many problems today. And this is the reason why Khalsa Raj crumbled. Look at that, Khalsa Ji. Forgiveness. You forgive a person if he makes a mistake, but if he continues to make that mistake, you get rid of him, because he's going to poison the organization, he's going to poison the country, he's going to poison that Raj. And we're going to speak about someone, a family who managed to poison Khalsa Raj, who single-handedly destroyed that Raj. A Raja is a protector of his people and should bear the same suffering that they do. If you look at the World Bank in 2010, they said that 30% of people in India live under $1.25 per day. 70% live under $2 a day, Khalsa Ji. 70%. And yet, the government, the officials, the prime ministers, they live in palaces, they live in takhats. Where is the justice in that? Look at that point as well. Be fair in your trade. The Indian government says that since 2000 to 2010, and these are their statistics, over 10,000 farmers in Punjab have committed suicide. 10,000 as a direct consequence of the interest rates that they're charging those people. Direct consequence. Khalsa Ji, how did Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa rule? What sort of principles did he put? As soon as he became the governor of Peshawar, of all these different places, he forgave this tax of taxing non-Muslims. He didn't say to the Muslims that, okay, now you have to pay double. You've been doing this for countless of centuries, now you pay double. No. Because that is not the philosophy of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. Hindus who'd been made Muslims, he didn't say, become Sikhs. No. He didn't force them to convert to Sikhi, no. He encouraged them to return to their original dharam. Who would do this in such an age? For countless of centuries, people have been forced to renounce their faith. In exactly the same way as Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa followed these principles as well. Now there are many different examples, but we don't have time to go through them, unfortunately, Khalsa Ji. But a very important thing is I want you to know what the legal system in Khalsa Raj was. If a crime happened, then it was the responsibility of the inhabitants around that land. They would all be arrested. It was their responsibility to stand up to prevent such crimes from happening. Look at what a great justice system that is. It empowers the people. So people who'd been oppressed for countless of centuries could finally take justice. And Khalsa Ji, these are two pictures that I want to show you. One is of a Hindu mandir that was constructed by Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. Such was the secular state that Khalsa Raj was. Maya was given to construct mosques, mandirs, Gurdwara Sahibs, equally. And to this day, you can find over 50 or 60 original structures that were designed by Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. One of them is seen in the picture over here. But it's very important to realize, when we want to buy a new house, when we want to find somewhere to live, we always look at certain things. There was only one thing that Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa used to look at. He used to always make sure any building that he constructed a place for him to do bhakti. And it was made in such a way that the door wasn't easy to walk in. No, the door was right at the top. So you had to get a ladder to climb in. And this is what Sardarji would do. Any fort that he built, he would always make a place to do bhakti. Because Khalsa Ji, this was not only a Mahan general, this was the Sant Sapai in the truest form. This is a poem, this is written by Qadr Yar in the late 19th century. And he's talking about what Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa did to Peshawar, how he changed it. Now I challenge any of you to take a piece of gold and to walk in the city of Bradford. But Khalsa Ji, in one of the most dangerous places in the world, people could do this. Justice was there. The oppressed finally had a voice. This is what Khalsa Raj gave them. Look around you, not only in this country, not only in India, across the world, Khalsa Ji. And when this happened, Qadar Yar said Peshawar was trembling in fear. But not only Peshawar, Kabul began to tremble in fear as well. Because Khalsa Ji, why do they tremble in fear? The only people who ever tremble in fear when the Khalsa begins to walk are those who are dushts, those who believe in falsehood. That's the only reason they'll tremble, Khalsa Ji. They were scared these principles that Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa had introduced across northern India were going to come to Kabul. And Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa had made plans to go through the Khyber Pass, to go all the way to Kabul, not to oppress people, but to liberate them. And how was he going to liberate them? You've seen the political conduct of Gursikhs at the time, Khalsa Ji. Going back to the conversation with Bibi Bano Ji, she spoke many different things with Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. Eventually, as she was about to leave, she looked at Sardar Ji and she said something. She said, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, remember she's a 21-year-old Pathan Larki. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa this time is in his mid-40s. And she says to him that if I have a son, if I'm blessed with a son, I want him to be like you. And Sardar Ji looked at her and he said, yes. Whatever son you have, whatever dharam they follow, if they're Muslim, if they're Pathan, no matter, let them fight for the side of dharam. But Khalsa Ji, this is not what she wanted. And she made that request again. And Sardar Ji repeated this again. And eventually she said to Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, no, I want you to get married to me and to give me a son. And Sardar Ji immediately got up when he heard this. Tears were coming from his eyes. And he said, if you come to make me fall, go away from here. Leave. And Bibi Bano Ji began to walk backwards. She took a few steps backwards. And then, Khalsa Ji, she said something which was like an arrow that pierced the heart of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. She said, I've heard from people that the house of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj is such a house that you'll never ever leave empty-handed. No matter who you are, if you're a Sikh, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Hindu, if you're an atheist, no matter what you are, you come to this darbar, Satguru Ji will never let you leave empty-handed. And this way, she said, Sardar Ji, today you proved this false. I've come to the son of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj and I'm leaving empty-handed. And Sardar Ji looked up. He held his hands together and he said to her, he said, wait, don't go. He called the Nihang Singhs who were outside. He told them to bring a shawl and he placed it on her head. And Khalsa Ji, look at what sort of Jivan Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa had. Because he said to Bibi Bano Ji, you came here wanting a son, you'll get a son. Sardar Ji, that Jarnail who not only was known in India, not only was known in Afghanistan, but the whole of Asia and even in Europe. Khalsa Ji, that general today bowed down at Bibi Bano Ji's feet and said, you want your son, take your son. From this day onwards, that 45-year Jarnail said to that 21-year-old girl that you are my mother and I am your son. Khalsa Ji, look at the character of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. In this age of Kaljug, where the chief vice is calm, where Kaljug, where Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj and Shri Dasam Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj shows us how the world is going to deteriorate. Look at the character of the sons of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Bibi Bano Ji, with tears in her eyes, bends down, touches the shoulders of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa and picks him up. And she says to Sardar Ji, I was never born into this dharam. I'm not a Sikh myself, but look at the blessing that I've got today, that I have a son who's a Sikh. Khalsa Ji. In this way, Bibi Bano Ji left. But we need to remember that, Khalsa Ji. Look at the character of Gursikhs at that time. They follow in the footsteps of Satguru Shri Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj, who said you can be a warrior, but you can fulfill the duties of compassion as well. The saint soldier. Now, Kabul were making plans to attack Peshawar because they knew, they were trembling. They knew if we don't attack now, then Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa and the Khalsa Forge are going to break through the Khyber Pass and are going to come and attack us. They're going to bring Dharam over here again. And speaking about Dharam, and speaking about Kaur's Corner, what they said, Sardar Ji, at the age of 7, his father, Bhai Gurdial Singh Ji, died, passed away. Who raised him, Khalsa Ji? His mother, Mata Dharam Kaur. She instilled Dharam with him. She not only taught him about Guru Sahib, about Naam Abhyas, about Bani, about Ret. No, she taught him other things as well. She taught him about Shastra Vidya, Yudh Vidya. She taught him Rajniti as well. All these things were the blessings of his mother, Mata Dharam Kaur. We were talking last time about Battis Lakhni Sat Santat Put, and we will complete that vichar one day. These are the qualities that she imbibed in Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. The king of Kabul was someone by the name of Amir Dost Muhammad Khan. And he'd made contact with the Darbar of Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji. And this is a picture of him, which is kept in the National Army Museum in Afghanistan. And this is a picture of Dhyan Singh Dogra, whose brother was Gulab Singh Dogra, and they're responsible for bringing down Khalsa Raj. At the time, because Khalsa Ji, what did they do? They put their own interests ahead of the Khalsa Panth. And this is the problem we face today. Too many people, too many Singhs like me are placing my own interest ahead of this Panth of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. They placed their own interests ahead of the Khalsa Panth. And what did they do? They told Amir Dost Muhammad Khan that the army, the Sikh army is being withdrawn from Peshawar. Why were they being withdrawn from Peshawar? Because of a wedding. Kanwar Noor Nihal Singh, the grandson of Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji, was getting married in Lahore, and Maharaja Ranjit Singh wanted to show the British the strength of the Khalsa Forge. So he withdrew vast amounts of army. And in this way, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa wrote to Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and he said, we need to attack now. We need to break through the Khyber Pass. We need to attack Kabul. Khalsa Ji, this letter that was written by Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa did not reach the hands of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. No, it met the hands of Dhyan Singh Dogra, who sent a reply to Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. And the reply said, we're not going to give you any more troops, and you're not allowed to attack. At the same time, he sent spies to Kabul, and he told Amir Dost Muhammad Khan, now is your time to attack. There are only 800 Sikhs defending the fort of Jamrod. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, people have told me he's ill, he's had a fever, he's unwell. Now is the time to attack. And don't bring any small army. No, bring as large an army as you can find. Attack with your full might. Crush them, kill them, destroy them. Take back what's yours. And Khalsa Ji, on the 15th of April, in 1937, Amir Dost Muhammad Khan declared jihad against the Khalsa Panth. And in this way, he gathered an army of over 40,000 people, 40,000 Pathans. And they set off from Kabul under the leadership of Sami Khan, who had been given the role of being the general for this campaign. And they set off and they arrived at the Khyber Pass on the 28th of April. And Khalsa Ji, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa was ill. He was ill. He had a fever. He was sat in Peshawar in a fort over there. Who was the Gursikh who was at Jamrod? It was by Mahan Singh, who had 800 soldiers with him. And Sardar Hari Singh had told Sardar Mahan Singh, keep on letting me know what's happening. Keep on sending me letters and I'll keep on updating Lahore Darbar. But Khalsa Ji, all the letters that were sent by Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa were confiscated by Dhyan Singh Dogra. No letter ever reached Sardar Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And in this way, Khalsa Ji, the army of Kabul surrounded the fort of Jamrod. Sardar Mahan Singh wasn't able to get a message to Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa that they're coming, they're attacking, bring the armies. No. 800 Sikhs were in Jamrod, and the Kabul army came and they began to bombard the fort again and again, again and again. These are some of the cannons that were used to defend Khalsa Raj, which are kept in this country now, in Ireland actually. Cannons were fired again and again, and eventually the Afghans managed to breach the western wall of Jamrod, the Qila. But Khalsa Ji, Afzal Khan, one of the sons of Amir Dost Muhammad Khan, he had a lot of josh and he said, let's go into the fort now and kill all the 800 Gursikhs. But Khalsa Ji, Sami Khan, the general said, you're too young, you've never ever fought any of these things, you never fought the Khalsa army. That if you go into that fort, that's what they're waiting for, they'll slaughter you. And he used a metaphor, he said that when you go and kill a lion, do you go into the lion's den or do you let the lion come out and then kill them? And this is what they planned, Khalsa Ji. And on the 28th of April, it had become dark. And the Gursikhs were still inside, 800 of them, who fought valiantly against the Afghans, the Pathans. And this is what Qadr Yar describes about this battle. It's very important that the sounds of Ali Ali and Akal Akal were ringing throughout. And he gives a metaphor. He describes the battle of Bhim and Karan. For those of you who don't know who they are, it's two figures from the Mahabharata. They're the equivalent of Homer's Iliad, where you have Achilles and someone else, I've forgotten their name. But essentially, it's the battle between an unstoppable force and an immovable object. Bhima was the one who had sworn that he would rip Dusasan's chest open and drink his blood for what he'd done to Draupadi in the court of Duryodhan, and he did this. Karna in the Mahabharata fights against Arjun, the greatest archer in the world, and is only defeated due to the curse that were uttered by various demigods. I say this to you just so you understand that even these great warriors would run away from this battle. That's how fierce it was. In the middle of the night, Khalsa Ji, Sardar Mahan Singh gets all the Singhs together, and they were not only Singhs there, they were Kaurs as well. And he gets them all together and he said, we need to do two things now. The first thing is we need to shore up the wall, the western wall that's fallen. We need to get sandbags. We need to secure that place. And in this way, the Gursikhs began to secure the western wall. And what does Sardar Mahan Singh now do? He sits down and he begins to write a letter. And this letter is written to Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. And it's written to where Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa is in Peshawar. And that letter is saying that, Sardarji, if you can send anyone now, now is the time. If you can bring an army, now is the time. We don't care. If we have to give our lives, we'll give our lives. But Khalsa Ji, the thought that's bothering us is the Kesari Nishan Sahib is going to be ripped off. And the green Afghani flag is going to fly over this place. Come now, if you're going to send anyone. And Khalsa Ji, all those warriors who were sat over there, Sardar Mahan Singh holds up the letter in his hand and he says, who is willing to put their life on the line to get this letter to Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa? And Khalsa Ji, who stands up? A Gursikh Bibi stands up by the name of Bibi Harsharan Kaur. Bibi Harsharan Kaur was regarded as the daughter of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. Because what had happened, Bibi Harsharan Kaur was actually called Bibi Sharni at one point. When she was married to Bhai Jagat Ram, a Hindu, Pathans had attacked the marriage convoy that was going to her husband's house. And not only did they take all their wealth, not only did they take all their belongings, but Khalsa Ji, they took Bibi Sharni Ji as well. And this was when Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa was the governor of Peshawar. Bhai Jagat Ram didn't know what to do, and he went into the darbar where Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa was, and he said to Sardar Ji, this is what they've done. They've taken my wife, they've taken all our belongings. Khalsa Ji, do something. And Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, what did he notice? He noticed that there were two people hanging in the courtyard, in the darbar, listening. There were two Pathans. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa knew these people were probably involved in all of this. So what did Sardar Ji do? He told the Singhs, arrest this man. We have no mercy or compassion for those who can't defend the innocent. He didn't even put up a fight. Arrest him. But Khalsa Ji, secretly, what he did is he ordered the Singhs to follow those two people who were in that court, and they led them to the Pathans who had captured this Larki, who had captured Bibi Sharni Ji. And this way he saved Bibi Sharni Ji, he saved Bhai Jagat Ram Ji, and they were brought back into his darbar. And Sardar Ji, he said, go now, the Singhs will accompany you to your village. But Khalsa Ji, Bibi Sharni Ji and Bhai Jagat Ram said, we're not going to leave you. We want to become Khalsa. We want to follow this marg of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Allow us to stay over here. In this way, Bhai Jagat Ram became Bhai Jagat Singh, and Bibi Sharni Ji became Bibi Harsharan Kaur. She was the one who stood up. And all the Singhs began to protest and said, what are you doing? Do you not realize it's 24 kilometers from Jamrod to Peshawar? It's in the middle of the night. There are animals over there. We have an army of 40,000 outside. Bibi Sharni Ji said, I'm not that Hindu girl anymore. I'm a daughter of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Bless me with this seva. Eventually, Khalsa Ji, a rope was lowered from Jamrod Takila. Two Singhs stood guard with guns and arrows ready. Bibi Harsharan Kaur made it down. And in this way, she traveled the whole night, 24 kilometers in the dark, with no light, with an army of 40,000 waiting. Khalsa Ji, with Guru Sahib's Kirpa, she made it to Peshawar. She made it to where Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa Ji was. And this is a picture that shows Sardar Ji lying in bed. This is not what happened. No, Khalsa Ji. What happened? The other picture is more realistic. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, even though he was ill, even though he had a fever, even though his body was giving up, Sardar Ji, it was Amrit Vela. He was doing Namabhyas. He was doing Nitne. This is something people forget. They forget about Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. They only think of him as a general, as much as Sant, as a general, as a supply. Khalsa Ji, once he'd finished his Nitne, he saw that Bibi Harsharan Kaur had come. And he asked her, why have you come? How have you travelled at night in this way? And she gave the letter of Sardar Mahan Singh to Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. Immediately, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa got up. Immediately, Khalsa Ji. And who was waiting outside? A doctor. A doctor was waiting outside. The doctor rushed in to where Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa was. And he caught hold of Sardar Ji's pulse, his arm. And he began to cry and said, Sardar Ji, what are you doing? Where are you going? You're too ill. Khalsa Ji, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa said, let go of my arm. This arm needs to pick up that talwar now. My panth needs me. Khalsa Ji, look at Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. He explained to the doctor, because the doctor said, the panth needs you. We need you to stay alive. We don't need your shahidi at this point. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa said something that should echo in our hearts to this very day. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa said, this is for the exact reason I'm going. Because if the glory of the panth is lost today, then 100,000 Sardar Hari Singh Nalwas will become slaves. But if we win, if I give my shahidi, if we defeat the Pathans, then 100,000 will become the next generation of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwas. Sardar Ji said, live for the glory of the Khalsa Panth and die for the splendor of it. In this way, he summoned his war council, Khalsa Ji. He got Sardar Nadan Singh, Sardar Amar Singh, and he had an army of 4,000 Gursikhs. And he told them, you attack in this direction, you attack in the other direction, and I'll come from this other direction. Khalsa Ji, it's very important we realize what was happening to the body of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. He was very, very ill. This is a picture taken from some of the lectures that I do at the university. And he had something called sepsis, which is where your body begins to attack itself. Where your blood pressure begins to drop because the pipes that supply your body become very leaky. Khalsa Ji, millions of people die from this. And if you come to A&E with sepsis, within 6 hours you have to have done certain things. Most of these patients are taken to intensive care. But Khalsa Ji, that very general who had this condition, was marching out to meet the Pathans, to meet those dosts. Khalsa Ji, they arrived at that place. They arrived at the battlefield. And Sardar Ji attacked, and so did the armies of Amar Singh, Nadan Singh. And Khalsa Ji, they crushed the Pathan army. They pushed them back. And Amar Singh, Qadar Yard records this, where he says that Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa bloodied the face of hundreds of Pathans with his talwar. Such was the ferocity that he attacked them. And Khalsa Ji, as soon as they heard Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa had arrived in the battlefield, they began to flee right to the Khyber Pass. Because Khalsa Ji, it's very important we realize there are only a few Gursikhs who have the kirpa of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, that their very presence on the battlefield is enough to turn that battle. From Sahibzada Baba Ajit Singh to Baba Deep Singh to Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. They pushed the army back and cannons began to fire from the fort of Jamrod. Sardar Mahan Singh began to fire cannons from there. The armies of the Pathans began to retreat. And Khalsa Ji, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa had decided, we're going to push them back once and for all. From this day onwards, no one is going to come through the Khyber Pass again. And he pushed them about 16 kilometers into the Khyber Pass. And Khalsa Ji, what happens then? His bodyguard, Sardar Ajab Singh, who's riding in front of him, is shot. A bullet cuts through the air and hits Sardar Ajab Singh. Another bullet is fired, and this time it hits Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa in the back. Another bullet is fired, and it hits him in the side. This is a general who's got sepsis, Khalsa Ji. This is a general who's ill. He's shot twice. Who has shot him, Khalsa Ji? He turns his horse around, the horse that had been through all the battles with him. He turns around, he sees it's someone dressed in the uniform of the Khalsa, someone dressed in the uniform of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. It's a Pathan who Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa had employed in the army. He'd shot Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. He'd been waiting for his chance. Khalsa Ji, with a look of disappointment, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, with his talwar in one hand, charges forward at this Pathan. He cuts him into two, and he hits him with such ferocity that Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa falls onto the floor. His body is bleeding, Khalsa Ji. And Khalsa Ji, as he looks around the battlefield, a poet describes this very beautifully. Qadar Yar writes about this in his poetry, about this final scene, this final event in Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa's life. Sardar Ji looks around. He has the bullets flying. He has the gunshots. He has the swords clattering into swords. He has the bows and arrows being fired. He has the screams of the injured. And he looks around and he sees two eyes looking at him. And Khalsa Ji, those eyes are ones he recognizes. And those eyes are crying. Khalsa Ji, whose eyes are those? Those eyes are of his horse. And this horse is no ordinary horse, Khalsa Ji. This is a war horse. This is a horse that's designed to go into battle, that's designed to go into wars, that knows as soon as blood comes, that's the end of your individual. Khalsa Ji, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa reaches towards that horse. He tries to console his horse. And Qadar writes in his poem that Sardarji has a conversation with his horse. Because remember, any warrior would have been happy to have had a Shahidi like this. But this is the Mahatma of Gursikh. Look at what Sardarji does. He realizes the Pathans have seen him fall. He realizes the Pathans are trying to regroup. They know he's down. They know he's injured. They know he's bleeding. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa tells his horse. He calls his horse Shera, a lion. And he says that I'm bleeding now. I don't think I'm going to make it. I don't think I'm going to be able to survive this. I ask of you to do me one last seva. Khalsa ji, what's that seva? He asks his horse that if you can somehow make your way back to the Jabrot Akila, from this moment, right to the moment that I do a Kal Chalna, I'll remember you. I'll remember your love. Khalsa ji, look at the seva of this horse. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa gets on his horse. With all the strength he can muster, he travels. That horse finds its way back to Jamrod Akila. Singhs are waiting over there. Sardar Mahan Singh is waiting over there. He sees Sardarji. He summons surgeons to come and stitch the wounds. Sardarji says, I haven't returned for you to treat me. I haven't returned for you to stop this blood. I've returned for only one purpose. The Pathans are coming. They know I'm injured. I need you to do something for me now. Khalsa ji, when people die, they want to be put in side rooms, they want to go to hospices, they want to have all sorts of drugs to numb that pain. But look at Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa. He says, wrap up my wounds and put me right at the top of the Qilla so that I can look at the Pathans and they can see that I'm still here, that I'm still watching them, that I'm not going to let them enter. I'm not going to let them loot, ravish, rape, murder, persecute all those people in the northern India and beyond. No, this is it. And Khalsa ji, as Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa was lying down, as they're about to lift him up, he says one more thing to the Khalsa Panth, something that should resonate within us. Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa says, Khalsa ji, stay united. Don't fight amongst each other. Walk together as deers. Don't fight like dogs. The minute you do that, the minute you break from each other, the minute you break from Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, the minute you place your own interests above the interests of the Panth, Khalsa Raj will disappear. Khalsa Raj will be no more. Khalsa Ji, in this way, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa was put at the top of the Qilla. The Pathans saw him and they said, no, he's still alive. He's still breathing. The gunshots have done nothing. In this way, they retreated back to Kabul, never to come in that direction again. And Khalsa Ji, there's one more thing about Sardarji that I want to mention. Sardarji did Akal Chalna right at the top over there. His head was placed at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. But he told Sardar Nidan Singh, when you cremate me, I want you to cremate me in the direction of Khyber Pass so that the Pathans know that I'm still here. I'm still watching them. Khalsa Ji, when the Taliban were going around Afghanistan destroying our Gurdwara Sahibs, this is from a Singh who's spoken to an Afghani who's come as a refugee. He said the Taliban won't enter Gurdwara Sahibs that had the name of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa engraved in them, that were built by him. Because Khalsa Ji, Jamrod is a massive fort, but inside resides something stronger. Inside resides a Sant Sapai of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Khalsa Ji, Khalsa Raj crumbled. We lost our unity. And in 1845, right till now, the present day, we've never had our Raj back. So this unity is a very, very important point. And many people come on Gurdwara stages and talk about unity. I just want to mention one thing. I know it's 1:30 and I'm going to finish shortly. So please bear with me. Unity. We're only ever going to become united when we recognize what each and every Sikh means. By Seva Das, one of the Gursikhs in the times of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, who became Pai Seva Singh, has written a Granth. And within that Granth, Gursikhs, he records a conversation between Gursikhs and Maharaj. And the Gursikhs asked Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj one thing. They say to Maharaj, Maharaj, when you're happy, what do you do? When you're happy with the Sikh, what do you do for them? What gift do you give them? Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj said, when I'm happy with one Sikh, I'll send another Sikh to their house. And they asked, what happens if you get even more happy? I'll send another Sikh. Maharaj repeated this 10 times, he'll send a Sikh to you. That's the gift that Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj has given you, Khalsa Ji. The people, if you look around now, the people that are sat amongst you, they're not here to fight with you. They're not here to slander you. They're not here to verbally or physically abuse you, Khalsa Ji. No. They're here for one purpose. They're here to help you. They're here to fight for you. They're here to live for you and to die for you, Khalsa Ji. But we need to recognize that. And we're only going to recognize the gifts of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj when we recognize Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. When we place our hopes, our faith, our everything in our beloved Satguru Ji. Because Khalsa Ji, when you unite, you become more than an individual. You become more than a person, more than a group, more than a Kirtani Jatha, more than a Taksal, more than a Dal, more than a Akhara, more than a Samprada. You become the Guru Khalsa Panth. You become the right-hand arm of a Kalpurk. And when that happens, Khalsa Ji, you become undefeatable. You become unstoppable. Khalsa Ji, you become Ajit. You become Jujar. You become Zorawar. And Fateh will come to you, Khalsa Ji. Only when you unite. Only when you place everything at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Because Maharaj has so much kirpa to bestow on us. So much. For those things who've read Shri Dasam Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj and Shri Sarablo Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, you will know the kirpa that Maharaj wants to give you. Only when you unite. Only when you stick together. Khalsa Ji, this is a tuk from Shri Sarablo Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, where Maharaj says, Fateh hoye Satguru ki, ude ast loharaj. What type of Raj does Maharaj want to give you? Maharaj wants to give you a Raj that not only is on this world, not only what you walk on, Khalsa Ji, that Raj will go up to the very sky itself. That's the Raj, that's the blessings Maharaj wants to bestow on you. But the choice is yours. The choice is yours, Khalsa Ji, as this generation, the one that's going to carry the flag of the Sikh nation into the new era. It's your choice. You can continue to fight with each other, or you can unite for a greater purpose. You can unite and you can recognize who Satguru Ji is. One last thing about Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa that I forgot to mention. When they opened the treasury of Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa, they didn't find a single rupee. They didn't find a single piece of Maya. They expected to find millions in there. Khalsa Ji, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa gave everything away to the Panth. Anything he could give. And Khalsa Ji, Sardar Hari Singh Nalwa had 4 children. Not once did he ever go to Lahore Darbar and say, give my son a job, give them a position. No. Why, Khalsa Ji? Because this Jarnail put the Khalsa Panth above everything else. Now when we stand today and we do ardas before Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, we need to beg for that. That Maharaj, unite us. Maharaj, let us live in such a way that we live and breathe and fight only for you, only for your interest. Because Khalsa Ji, we know what will happen then. All the kirpa of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj will be done. I'd like to ask you for forgiveness for any mistakes that I've made. Please consider me your younger brother. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Bole so nihal.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.